JDB, you talked about forming committees, and how long is it going to take now for them to finish this exercise?
They are directed the Secretariat to come up with lists within 24 to 48 hours. That's basically we are left with tomorrow for the Secretariat to make a presentation on the lists of representatives to go to these great regions. And what we are doing is this, is that the army is going to be joined in the sense that every specialized agency, every security organ will be represented on the teams. Sspdf, then our counterparts, the organized forces, the government law enforcement agencies, and then the opposition organized forces. So for every law enforcement agency, they would be having a representative, including representatives from DDR, then the medical corps, so that they go and help in the screening process. And the most important thing that I would like to point out is that every party to the agreement, they would be the ones screening the officers, NCOs, and other ranks. For instance, we in the Sspdf, who are going to be on the teams, it would be our primary responsibility to screen our ranks and files and put them in military formation. Likewise with SPLIO, likewise with SA. So that once that they are done, and then they screened forces, screen forces that are screened by the respective parties, then are put together, they are mixed and ready for graduation. The reason why we are giving each party responsibility is because we have problems of rank inflation. And you cannot go and screen an officer when you are from another party. It is the party that promoted that officer, that had assigned that officer, NCO and men, to go and face them. Look, this is how the organization is going to be, and the guiding compass is the conventional military structures that we have. Mostly they are universal, and they have been directed to use bottom-up approach. The smallest unit in our setting is a squad, and a squad comprises of 11 men. 2 commanders, squad commanders, there's the corporal, deputized by lance corporal, and then 9 riflemen. Once you put that, then now you move to the next level, which is you have 3 squads, you end up with a platoon. Platoon, of course, comprises of 3 corporals, 3 lance corporals, a sergeant, and then a second LT. So the formation will continue from the smallest unit up to the highest unit.
What's the highest?
In our case, we have a division. Division is the highest unit that we have. Then when divisions are brought together, we end up having a corps.
Yeah, and maybe just for our listeners and people who are watching us live right now, Lul, you talked about division, but can you also explain the number, for instance, number of people?
When the support units are rounded, we are talking of a division ranging from 10 to 11,000 men and women.
And Lul, when you say every party has the responsibility of screening their own forces, right? But some of these forces are already in the training center. So you mean the screening will happen where they are, or they'll have to report somewhere else?
No, where they are. The last visits that were made, we discovered that proper screening was not effected at some training centers. For instance, I had an opportunity of visiting training centers in Greater Bahar al-Ghazal that included Masnabira, Pantid, and Mapel. At Masnabira, we were able to identify a number of elderly servicemen and women. We were able to see very sickly servicemen and women, and wounded heroes and heroines. They would be subjected to a criteria that was set by JTSC, eligibility criteria. You are required to appear physically and in person before the screening committees, so that you are physically assessed, and then once you meet the criteria set, and then you are chosen to continue with service. You fall short of the criteria, and then you are put aside for you to go for DDR. The same applies for the other organized forces national security, they'll do their screening, they put their servicemen in their formations, because we in the security sector, we have our own organizational structures, we have our own formations, and that's why it is very important for every agency to be represented by their own specialists, the finest specialists to go and put their unit in their formations.
Right. And General, don't you think this will be or might be criticized by, let's say, maybe the peace monitoring bodies or other parties to the agreement, especially the SOA and SPLM-IO of Dr. Riek Machar? Isn't it like they may say it's a way of reducing the number of their soldiers? I mean, there are soldiers within the Sspdf. They don't really look fit, but they are soldiers right now.
The criteria that I'm talking about is cross-cutting. We are not going to be selective in applying it. It is going to be applicable to all the organized forces at all the training centers. And the issue of being criticized here does not come in, because on the teams, we are going to have representatives from the parties to the agreement. Like when we met yesterday, not even a single party was left without a representative. So the issue of saying it's a way of reducing, no. When we had agreed on putting these forces in conventional military formations, and you know we are from the same background, we are not inventing wheels. We are only revisiting the compass that we have been using all along. Is that SPLIO, they know when it comes to conventional military formations, they know it. And we know it, and the rest, they know it. So we are saying this is the number of officers, NCOs, and other ranks that are required to be in this unit, to be the commanding officers and NCOs. Period. Anything that is excess is put aside, then to be handled later on.
Right. And General Lul, if we go back to August this year, President Salva Kiir directed two of his deputies, that's the first Vice President Dr. Riek Machar and Vice President Hussein Abdel Baghi. Kiir directed them to present the list of their nominees for the unification of security command as stipulated in the peace agreement. What happened to that? I mean, like the ranking of the unification of the command.
This is exactly what we are doing. And you cannot unify the command at the top without going systematically. We are having 3 levels of military leadership. We are having the tactical level, operational, and strategic. Now for this unification of command to be accomplished, you must start from down, going upwards. And this is the beginning, and we are sequencing the events. Now we are going for a screening, putting them in military formations. The committees would be required to come back. You know, I'm almost skipping something very important. When the presidency met, they were asked how long they would require for them to put their respective commands in order. His Excellency, the first Vice President, had requested for 3 weeks. His Excellency, Hussein Abdel Baghi, requested for 2. Then the President said, okay, 2 and 3 are more or less the same. He added to them 1 more week. So the processes that we have started now are projected to take 4 weeks. The process of screening, putting them in military formations, and reporting back to the command, to the presidency, that look, this is what we have done. Then now once these forces are put in all the formation that we have talked about, that's where now the parties to the agreement would come and say, yes, I'm nominating so and so and so to be the one commanding, then the unification happens at the top.
Yeah, and General, the meeting we are talking about, the meeting of President Kiir with his 2 deputies, it was in August, 11th August actually. And it's more than 4 weeks now, more than 5. We are in October.
These are processes. You know, for us at JDB to reach the presidency, there are a number of institutions in between. We at JDB, we report to NPTC, NPTC reports to the presidency. And once the presidency is given a report, they would also convene and meet. And then it comes back. So it is bottom-up and top-bottom approach. So the process, and you know, sometimes it takes a little while, you know, because of other engagements.
Right.
But of course, let me tell you that this is the last leg of the entire process.
Well, I hope so, and many people or many South Sudanese hope as well. Earlier, or let's say earlier this month, we had an interview with Michael Maku, Information Minister. He said we cannot graduate the forces with a stick. I mean, they don't have rifles, and what will happen because of the arms embargo imposed on South Sudan? Does that mean you're going to graduate them without weapons or firearms?
We are going to graduate them. That was a decision reached by the JDB, that let these forces be graduated, and then we see what next happens.
Whether they have weapons or not, they will be graduated.
They will be graduated.
And a simple question, General Lul. A layman down there is asking, maybe wondering, when are you really going to graduate the forces?
I have repeatedly said that this is the last leg of the entire process, and I'm saying, I'm very sure by first week of November we will be done with mostly the graduation of the necessary unified forces, and that would be followed by deployment, by the way.
Yeah.
Once we are done with the screening, it would be followed by unification of command. Unification of command would be followed by the deployment of the necessary unified forces, and then now the JDB and other mechanisms would be required to prepare all the training centers for second phase of implementation.
Yeah, and General Lul, it's also a good opportunity for you to respond to some statements from civil society activists, political analysts, and also some South Sudanese. I mean, people are saying we're tired of waiting. Graduation next month, postponed several times. We talked to defense minister, we talked to information minister, IO, also the government. So why should a South Sudanese citizen believe what you're saying right now? Because it's not the first time, General. Maybe a message of hope to the people of South Sudan that indeed this time around it's going to happen.
I concur with them that, when a process drags on for too long, for reasons beyond one's control, like it took nearly 2 years, for reasons beyond our control. These reasons are well known. We have been stating them time and time again. But this time, it's for real. And let those of us who have been doubting our commitment, our resolve to graduate the necessary forces, not be caught off guard. Especially those who had been at training centers for the last 2 years. This is the most crucial step that we are getting at. That it would be a waste of time, a waste of someone's effort to be at the training center for 2 years only to miss out at the last minute. So it is understandable, their frustrations are understandable, but they were not intentional, they were beyond our capacity, and now we are moving at lightning speed to bring this chapter to a very dignified close, so that we embark on the second phase of the implementation of transitional security.
Right, General, yes, the revitalized peace agreement requires 83,000 forces. That's what the peace agreement talked about. And a few months, or let's say early this year or mid this year, President Kiir announced or said that there are 53,000. It was also echoed again by the chair of NTC. So the graduation we're talking about now, how many soldiers are we expecting?
It would be difficult for me to give numbers now since we are going for a screening. So let us leave the issue, the politics of numbers behind. Let us first go in for a screening. Once we are done with the screening, then we would be in a position to come out and say, this is the number of security forces that are ready for graduation.
But why do you say it has to be left? And why then it was mentioned in the peace agreement?
Yes, it was mentioned before the screening was done. It is good to say exactly what is happening. So we heard these numbers, but now that we are going for a screening, it would be impossible for you to predict how many would be disqualified for military service, how many would go. Because the screening we are doing, some of it is compulsory. You don't meet the requirements, you are put aside. Others would be asked, do they want to continue to serve in the military? Others would have the preferences, maybe going for other organized forces. So the number is not going to be static. The number that we gave will not remain the same, and that's why we do not want to put the cart before the horse. Let the screening process be done. Then once we are done, I'm the one who is the most piece of Sspdf. Once we are done with the screening, we get the accurate numbers from all the training centers. We want to shy away from coming, look, from 53,000 that we had announced, this is the exact number that we are having for the Sspdf for other organized forces.
How many soldiers do you have, Sspdf? The last time you responded to this question, it was actually more than 100,000.
Well, the most important thing is not about numbers. It's about the training that we have and the equipment. So initially, we were directed by His Excellency the President that for this army to be affordable, trainable, and capable of defending our territory, it must be brought down from nearly 200,000 to 120,000. And we have been working very hard to bring it to that number. And we are doing it gradually. Until all these processes are completed, the process of bringing on board our peace partners, we want to have exact number. But of course, we have been using other means of bringing the number down and maintaining it from fluctuation. Like now, we have the biometric system. I was registered in 2019 with all my details. It is in the system. So that if you go even under a different name and you press your finger against the system, it would show that you are duplicating yourself. So we have put in place mechanisms to ensure that we have an accurate parade that does not fluctuate. It only goes up when it is needed.
Right.
It goes down when the leadership decides.
Right.
So it is a matter of time before we get into that to that stage.
Right, it's now 18 minutes to the top of the hour. You're still listening to the live broadcast of the Dawn program here on iRadio, and we are talking about the security arrangements. Let's go for this short break, and when we get back, we'll pick few calls. 11986 so you can send to 13986 You can also leave your comment on our Facebook page, iRadio Juba. Don't go away.
When MTN promises, it fulfills. MTN Ashura promotion is on, and the winners are here to testify.
My name is Renga Jack. I win the car from MTN, and I'm happy with them. I'm welcoming all of you. You can recharge your 9 and then you try to play the game. When there is a chance, you can still win, and I'm happy for that. Thank you.
It's not too late, and you too could be like him. With the MTN Ashara, recharge 1,000 South Sudanese pounds or more to enter the promotion. MTN has 10 cars to give away. Other goodies include motorbikes, cash prizes, free airtime, bundles, and so much more amazing goodies from MTN. To win, recharge 1,000 South Sudanese pounds or more on MTN. MTN Ashara. Let's celebrate together. Terms and conditions apply.
MTN, everywhere you go.
This is iRadio.
Good morning. It's iRadio.
Yes, a very good morning to you once again. It's now 16 minutes to the top of the hour. You're still listening to the Dawn program here on iRadio, and my name is Emmanuel Joseph Akile. And we are discussing the security arrangements under Chapter 2 of the Revitalized Peace Agreement with Sspdf Spokesperson Major General Lul Ruai Koang. Now, if you have any question or comment, you can now dial 0911986986. Hello, Radio.
Good morning.
Good morning.
David Magog.
David Magog from Tomping?
I'm here in Juba, New Side.
Yeah, go ahead, David Magog.
First of all, I would like to welcome the guest to the studio. I would like to ask the General, all this time, they are saying these lovely words and they don't implement them. They told us at that time that the SPLA, or let's say all these soldiers, will be screened and they will be taken to the training center. Today he's telling us that they are going to screen this while they have already 2 years. What were they doing for this almost 2 years without screening this? This is number one. Number two, he is saying now that it is only the branch of those movements who are going to screen their own soldiers. And if you see the IO and the SAWA and whatever, they have more officers than the normal soldiers by themselves, what is so-called NCOs. How do you think that these people are going to screen their officers? It is better that you form the committee, compulsory committee that will say that you are not eligible to be in this position than to this, so that the soldiers are put in uniform to respect the country than to respect the party.
All right.
How come that then there are better men officers than the soldiers?
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much, David Magog. Hello, Radio. No.
طيب انا بقدر اتكلم كده طبعا احنا كمواطنين احنا قاعدين ننظر اتفاق السلام ماشي كده.
يا سؤالك طوالي سليمان عشان زمن.
انا بقدر نعمل كومنت. انا بالنسبه لي يا سليمان انا ما بصدق انه القوات دي هيتم تكريمهم لانه يعني تم مزاج بتاعنا لفترات طويله جدا جدا بانه بيتم تكريم القوات لكن في النهايه ما في حاجه بيحصل. انا بالنسبه لك يا سليمان انا ما بتوقع انه
نعم شكرا جزيلا. هلو راديو.
Yes, Manuel Akila, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, Lacosta here. Actually, first of all, I welcome.
So Lacosta, just go to the question now. We have already welcomed him. It's okay because of time. Just straight to the question.
All right, Emmanuel Akila, my question is since these people are being say all these words, we are going to do this, we are going to do this. Yeah, they are good in say that. But to be implemented, this one, I don't think if it is going to be the same. But this one around will need to be different. So they have to know that whatever they say, they have to do it. And coming to the side of guns, not guns, you see this SOA and the HIHO and the government. These people during the war, they were having their own guns. Why is it very difficult to collect this gun from these people and graduate them with it?
All right. Thank you, Sabacosta. Hello, Radio.
Good morning, Emmanuel Joseph Akila, and good morning to the girls in the stadium.
Yes, James Dor?
Yes, James Dor, yes.
It's straight to the question, James Dor.
Yeah, I'm now going straight to the question, yes. My question is like this. I heard the group calling yesterday for the forces to report back to their cantonment site. Did you provide the food to the cantonment site, or you are telling them to go there without food? This is one. Number two, how should these forces be graduated, and you are calling for international communities to lift the arm embargo, and if arm embargo is not lifted, you are not going to graduate. Are you going to graduate them with the sticks, or you change your mind?
All right. Thank you, James Dor, for your question. General, I give you the chance now to respond to the questions. You can even put some of them together because the one of James, you already talked about it. With or without firearms, they'll still be graduated. Just go straight.
Brother David, let me tell you, screening was actually done in most training centers. It is some of these malpractices were only discovered in a few. So for the last 2 years, screening was going to take place at cantonment sites, but for some reasons beyond the concerned mechanisms, it did not happen, and that's why we are revisiting it. So it is not that all were not screened. Most of them were screened, only a few. So it will not take long. To Brother Suleiman, it will happen. Don't be discouraged. These the necessary unified forces are going to be graduated, and just keep on monitoring all the media houses. Implementation, yes, it has been lagging behind, and that's why not people have become so unhopeful. But of course, it was because of a number of reasons, including the issue of COVID-19. Regarding guns, of course, we cannot tell what had happened. We had been at war for 7 years, and we would not be in a position to question each and every partner why you're not having your guns. It will be dragging us forward. But the decision has been reached that they are going to be graduated with or without guns. Question from James Dor. Yes, within these 7 days, there's a Sspdf Chief of Defense Forces, General Santino Denwall, is going to direct his command for food to be prepositioned within this 1 week. This 1 week that we are preparing ourselves to visit all the training centers, the necessary logistics are going to be prepositioned in all the training centers for these processes to take place. We have SSPDF divisional headquarters in Malakal Narang. They have food, they have different food rations, so they will supply the training centers that are in Greater Upper Nile. Likewise, for training centers in Greater Bahr el Ghazal and here in Greater Equatoria. So these forces will not report to training centers without food. They'll find food prepositioned for them to undergo the processes without facing any difficulties. So I think with the arms embargo, we'll keep on engaging the international community. We have decided to do part of our obligation, part of our agreement, graduate them. And once we graduate the forces, those who have been doubting us maybe would be convinced and have a change of heart in terms of advocating for this arms embargo to be lifted.
Right. And General, we have also a question or a comment from one of our listeners on Facebook page. He was talking about the salary of the soldiers. Our soldiers are really tired and suffering. So are you going to increase their salaries? Go ahead.
Yes, I had seen a circular on social media, but I'm yet to be served with a circular by the relevant military leadership. You know, once I saw a circular released by the Ministry of Public Service indicating salary increments for various ranks and NCOs and men. But of course, I want to comment on this because I have not received an official circular from Assistant Chief of Defense Forces for Administration, Finance and Personnel.
Yeah.
So, but I heard and I saw on social media
Yeah.
that the salaries are going to be increased.
Right. General Lul, let's also maybe respond to a few comments from our listeners. And I think people who are watching us on Facebook, I read some of them, but I think we can just summarize. They are talking about when are you going to graduate the soldiers. So maybe you explain to the listeners, are we talking about the soldiers only, or we're talking about the national security, the police, and other organized forces? And another one is saying, after screening, the soldiers will, are they going to be graduated with a stick? He's just asking if we already talked about it. But maybe tell us, Lul, are we talking only about the army?
No. We are talking about all the security forces that have been at training centers for the last 2 years. The Sspdf, then our counterparts in the armed opposition, military, the other organized forces, police, wildlife, fire brigade, correctional centers, correctional services. There's the prison warders. All those who have been at training centers are going to be graduated together.
Right.
Yes.
Now, because we're running out of time, maybe outline some of the challenges facing the implementation of this chapter 2, especially the graduation.
Well, the biggest problem that we are having now is that most parts of the country are submerged, and it's going to be a challenge for some of these security forces to report to training centers, especially in Greater Upper Nile and maybe some parts of Greater Bahr el Ghazal. It is projected that it's going to be a very big challenge. The issue of transporting these food rations that are going to be delivered. Of course, our roads during the rainy season become impossible. The issue of accessibility becomes